I think we're live. It might take a minute.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everybody. Warming up.
John, is there anything in that freezer? You got anything in? You got any like ice cream or?
What, you want me to give you a tour of the Airbnb?
No, not the Airbnb, just the freezer or whatever that is behind you. Maybe it's a kegerator.
I don't even know. Like, I haven't. Here we go. Nothing. I think it's empty.
Okay.
But this is weird. I didn't expect this. This is the magic of Europe, right? They have a fridge that the door opens both directions.
Whoa!
Wow!
I know they're living
in Europe. I've never seen this. You've never seen that? This is new to me.
Well, maybe you need to get
as
the
a European. I've never seen this.
I need to upgrade my Switch.
So this is the extent of what I did for my shopping: oat milk and cheese and some yogurt.
You were like liquid only. If I have to eat solid foods, I'm out.
I just needed something. So if I wake up in the middle of the night, I can have some granola or something. I don't know. But no, that door on that fridge just freaked me out. And I'm really happy, Dirk-Jan, it freaks you out too. Because I've never seen
trust it.
I was afraid you're going to be like, dude, everyone does that in Europe.
No, fridges aren't supposed to open both ways. It's unnatural.
It's easy to take the whole door off as well. So
did you do that accidentally or?
I kind of popped it off, and I'm like, look at me, I'm the pen tester at the fridges.
Now, did you check if that fridge has Bluetooth? No. All right, let's move on.
No. Oh, speaking of which, do we have the news story of Samsung? Their fridges, they're going to start serving up ads randomly at you in the middle of the day.
Oh, I'm not surprised, but I don't think I saw that.
I saw that.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I saw the article, but I don't know if it's on our list.
Yeah, I didn't add it. I didn't see it.
You bought this $2,000 fridge. It's got a screen on it that can tell you things, and you can browse the web. And by the way, we're going to serve you ads now.
Are they using the camera that like takes a picture of the inside of the fridge?
One of the most terrifying
things might be that model.
I have that fridge. I do. That's a flex. But one of the most terrifying things ever is at Wild West Hacking Fest, we had a bunch of people having dinner at my house, a bunch of speakers. And I had Mubix and Egypt and I think Steve. They were all like getting access to like the command prompt on my fridge. And I had to tell them to please effing stop because it's an Android tablet, actually controls the entire fridge. So if they brick it, they would have bricked my fridge.
I gotta say, John, I'm very disappointed that you bought a fridge. As the owner of a security company, you bought a fridge that has an Android tablet in it. Don't you have an Android pen testing class? Or is that why you bought the fridge?
Does it make you feel better that I snip all the traffic off my fridge? That sounds so bad. Sniffing my fridge. All right, we need to.
All right, your fridge smells weird. Let's roll the finger. Let's go.
Corey, you're in charge.
All right. Hello and welcome to Black Hills Information Security's Talkin Bout News. It's September 22nd, 2025. It's another celebrity episode. Woo! This time, we have John Strand. Wait, no. Sorry, wrong celebrity. Although I will say, John, on a side note, I asked ChatGPT if it knows who you are, and it does not. So you're still safe from the AI overlords.
Thanks.
But yeah, our real celebrity guest is Dirk-Jan, who's a cloud exploitation expert, I guess, or just hated by Microsoft, maybe is your job title. I don't know if they love you or hate you. If I was Microsoft, I would love you. But
I measure my success in engineering time that Microsoft spends on my stuff.
Yeah, that's that. You should ask for that. Like if they ever want, let's have a bug bounty payout or whatever. Just be like, no, I just want to know how much money I've cost you over the years. And then they should just print you a t-shirt with that dollar amount on it every time you submit a new CVE, and then you can just have like incrementing t-shirts, then you wear them at your talks where it just says like $200,000, $400,000, it just keeps going up every time. So yeah, I guess this is a Microsoft CVE. I don't know. Was it a 10? I'm not sure what the severity of the CVE actually was, but it was pretty bad from my perspective. Do you want to run us through just at a high level? Basically, my understanding is for hybrid joined Azure tenants, you found a privilege elevation, and then the token you get back can be used on every tenant. Basically, is the long story short.
That's the nice TLDR. So they released it as a CVSS 9, and then later they changed it to a 10, which I felt more accurate. I didn't feel like arguing, like, is this going to be a 9 or a 10?
I gotta wait. When they first scored it, were you hoping for a 10 and it came back a 9 and you were a little disappointed because you felt you stuck the landing? And then when they finally went back and reevaluated as a 10, were you like, finally, yes. Like you've got to have some pride on a 10.
I was more like, they said attack complexity high, and I was like, I don't think it's that high. And then later, apparently they agreed. I don't know how that internal process went. At some point,
somebody probably just
heads up like, hey, it was updated. And then it was suddenly
probably saw that it could be turned into a Metasploit module because they think anything beyond running Metasploit is complexity high, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess from my perspective, this what made you as the researcher be like, you know what, I'll try this token on other tenants? Like, or did you do it on accident? Did you typo something? If you want to lie, you can lie.
No, I did not typo it. I mean, we have quite a few security researchers here, and sometimes like when you're researching something, you just get that gut feeling like, hey, something's off here, something's not right with this product or protocol. It has to be broken somehow. You can't explain why it is, but somehow you feel it, and then you keep digging and changing stuff just to see if it actually breaks if you keep poking at it. And I guess this was one of these things. So actually, the largest part of the research I did like last year in the summer, and then I had like the hybrid parts. That was what I talked about at Black Hat and DEF CON about doing hybrid lateral movement. Like you start on-prem, you exfiltrate certificate from Exchange, and then you use these in the cloud. That was okay. I was like hoping for a little more, I guess, when I looked at the protocols, because the protocols look kind of broken to me. And I was actually preparing my slides, and usually when I prepare my slides, that's where I try all the variants. I like polish up my proof of concepts, try the scripts a few more times, and then I was like, oh, I can also like test this for some different apps. Like I didn't even initially test this for this graph API. I was more focused on Exchange and SharePoint. I was like, well, why would the Exchange be able to talk to the graph? And I didn't test it. And then I tested that, and it worked. And then I was like, well, let's test a few other things. Like can I do this against a different tenant? Because I tested that for like SharePoint, Exchange, and it didn't work. It got me all error messages and stuff. So just swapping out a few GUIDs. And then suddenly with this one, it actually gave a very weird error message, like the user not found. Which makes sense because the user was from a different tenant and it didn't exist in the tenant that I changed it to. And at that point, I was like, wait, you're saying it's not found. Does it mean that you thought my token was fine? Because it was definitely not. The token was from a different tenant, and I just changed the tenant ID in like this outer unsigned token. Then I changed the user ID to a valid one, and I actually got back results. I'm like, no, this can't be happening. Because I changed it to my real tenant where I host my email, because I don't put any test users in there, obviously. So I was like, did I add this user there? Did I create some relationship between my dev tenant and my prod tenant? And then I didn't. So I figured out it did really work, and I tested it with a few other test tenants I have, and I was like, okay, this actually like works cross-tenant. So
wait a minute,
that's amazing.
Let me ask you.
The feeling had to be the weirdest feeling ever.
Was this all before your Black Hat DEF CON talk? Because you were preparing for talk A, and then you stumbled into this. Like, where were you? Like when you're getting ready to go on stage, did you know that this was coming down the pipe, and you were working with Microsoft to get it fixed? And you're like presenting, and you're like, "This sucks so bad compared to what I'm going to drop in just a little while." Or were you still fleshing it out by like DEF CON Black Hat summertime?
No, I knew it like 2-3. I think it was 3 weeks before the talk that I found it. and I also reported, and I knew it was fixed at the moment I was doing the talk. But yeah, I had a lot of thoughts okay, do I change the topic for the Black Hat talk to this new thing? But I already had tons of content. I had to cut out a lot of slides that I actually wanted to talk about because it just couldn't fit in the schedule. And it's well, if I just add this as this one extra thing, it's just going to take away from the rest of the talk. So it's okay, I'm not going to put it in there. I actually did put a teaser in both the DEF CON and the Black Hat slide deck, only for those who were there, because I didn't post that online. Because I closed my talk and I said okay, my next talk is going to be the title of the previous talk, but then so the talk at Black Hat was lateral movement techniques from on-prem AD to Entra. And then I changed the slide title and I said my next talk is going to be lateral movement from my on-prem AD to your Entra. That was kind of the hint for this.
That's not a hint. That's pretty much exactly what this is. I
don't know. Well, I feel like that. I feel like the most common configuration is hybrid join, right? That's at least from my perspective in enterprise, that's the most common setup that people use. Does this affect does it affect native tenants, I assume?
Yeah.
Or no?
So I found this in hybrid join. In the end, you didn't need the hybrid join because you can also do this without Exchange hybrid. It's just that you need to have a credential on the Exchange in your tenant, which hybrid join used to do, or hybrid Exchange used to do, I should say, because they changed that. But you can also do that without hybrid join, and it affected all the tenants.
Wow.
So they didn't need to be hybrid joins.
And so, okay, a couple other technical questions. One question from the audience is there any indicators of compromise to see if this has been abused in a tenant? So part of your blog says that it doesn't generate logging events. Did Microsoft, I mean, you don't have to share if, it's privileged information or whatever, but does Microsoft have any secret logs that they could go and investigate whether it had been abused by threat actors? Or do you have any information about that? Whether that should be something people are concerned with, or is this just luckily you caught it before some bad guys did scenario?
I mean, Microsoft has a lot of secret logs. I don't think they're secret. It's just very well known that internally they have a lot of telemetry about what's happening. I don't know what kind of logs they have, what kind of detail. I'm assuming that they looked at who was requesting these specific authentication tokens that I call actor tokens in the blog. I don't know if they have the detailed logging for the Azure AD graph, the legacy API where I use this in. But if this was used on your tenant, it depends a bit what the actor did with it. So if they just read information, you won't see any logs because there's no API level logging yet for this API. They're adding that. I don't know when that will be public. It's in a very limited private preview at the moment, as far as I know. But if you want to change something, then that will result in audit logs. So I can add a new global admin, but then you'll see a new user being created, a global admin role being assigned, and that will leave very specific traces, as I also outlined in the blog, that you can detect that it was done by this impersonation token.
Right. So the actual token issuance you can't detect, but any kind of post-exploitation actions with the token you would see just like you would normally. And I'm sure everyone we know has 100% logging enabled in their Microsoft Graph and cloud environments, and they have those logs going into all their security tools. There's no gaps whatsoever there, right?
Yeah, and infinite retention, obviously.
And infinite retention, of course. Yeah, good point. Yeah, I mean, I think the only other question I have is for the legacy API, do you have a timer in your house that's timed to the legacy API being disabled? Because that's kind of your thing, right? With road tools that uses a legacy API, did they delay the disablement of that API? I guess, what are your thoughts on that API being enabled at this point? Is it necessary or?
So, I mean, they use it internally. They use it. That's something that I'm pretty sure about. So I really wonder, when that deadline hits, even if they stop moving it around, because I think it's in a few months now. I think it's mostly going to be blocked for customer applications. So if you have a app that's you develop that still use this legacy API, it will definitely break down. But if you're authenticating with a Microsoft app, one of these Microsoft public clients, like Road Tools does, I think it will keep working for at least quite a while longer. I don't know if like these findings in the legacy API are kind of pushing them to deprecate it faster and to really get it done with. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually have more motivation now to just kill it off based on these findings. But I think it will still keep working for a while, and if not, we'll switch over to Microsoft Graph, I guess. But I like the old API more because there's more information in there.
Well, there's also less permissions, right? Like the default tokens just scope to user impersonation. It's like, all right, here's everything. You're good to go.
And for the Graph API, man, it's so much effort to figure out like, oh, I need all these 5 tokens to actually query this data, even from like a legitimate point of view.
For sure. Yeah. Do you have plans? And I apologize if this is an ignorant question, but are you going to add modern graph support to road tools, or are you going to stick it with the legacy API?
I mean, once the legacy API stops working, then I'll definitely move forward with the normal Graph API. Actually, there is already a pull request for that. I think I've merged it into a separate branch. I still need to review it and get everything merged in, because it also changes like the entire database schema and all that. But there is basically a version of Road Recon that uses the Microsoft Graph, not even written by me, so somebody contributed that. I don't remember the name currently. But you can check it out on GitHub and maybe give it a test drive. But it's there, it's there, and it will be there as soon as it's needed, basically. But until they really kill off the legacy API, I prefer to just keep using it.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I mean, as a pen tester, I'm a huge fan. Like we use Road TX all the time and Road tools. Like, it's been a critical thing for us, and I really appreciate your work on it.
Yeah, no problem. Like really the reactions from everybody from the community have been so positive, everything. So really appreciate that, and definitely motivates me to keep going with the research.
Very cool.
All right, last Microsoft question is, how many other bugs have you submitted to Microsoft that they said this isn't a real bug? Can you even count?
Well, I think these days it's less. So like,
they're gonna listen to you.
There's been a change. No. So 5 years ago, when you did research and you submitted it, then everything was like by design and not a problem. But they're taking things quite a bit more serious now. Like last year at Black Hat, there was a talk about like application permissions and like hidden permissions in Microsoft apps. And like I told them a similar thing like in 2019, and they didn't really care. They just said like, yeah, this is how it works. But now they actually started removing all of these, restricting them. So they do quite a bit more hardening now, and I guess they just improve their stance on security a little bit. Also because of the whole like Secure Future initiative that is definitely getting steam. I think so far it's been mostly internally at Microsoft where they made a lot of changes, but we're starting to see that now also applied to like the customer facing side. So they are definitely improving their stance on security. And less things by design these days. Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool.
Well, you get to go to sleep. I don't. I have to stay for the rest.
Thank you for all your work. It's awesome. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, thanks for having me on the podcast.
Congratulations on the 10. And by the way, you're welcome, because we complained for a year about how there were no 10s, and then they started creating 10s. So I'd like to think that we were a little bit of your team.
Or you asked them to just put this bug in there so I could find it and could be a 10?
Yeah.
No, not that.
I appreciate it.
There would be like the reverse Easter bunny, like an Easter bunny in a hoodie. It's like sprinkling vulnerability eggs all over the place, So
yeah, we'll be patiently waiting for your next blog and immediately, getting excited when it's posted.
I don't think anything is going to be as exciting as this one, but I'm at peace with that. So,
well, and I'm going to say, all joking aside, you can get into that treadmill. Talking to a lot of people over the years, from like Barnaby Jack or Dan Kaminsky when they were still alive, they felt like they constantly had to be on this treadmill where they had to find the next big vulnerability, had to find the next big vulnerability, to find the next vulnerability. And but yeah, if you're at peace with that, that's awesome. It's a much better place to be because the stress can start to crush you if you start looking at everything through that lens. So good on you if you can say you're okay with that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and since you're the owner of a pen test company as well, do you want to give a quick plug before you head out? Yeah.
Sure. I don't know what you want me to shout out, but I do have a. Oh yeah. So the company is called Outsider Security, and that's just me. So there's no other people than me working there. But I do pen testing, consulting. I don't do red teaming because there's this word team in red team, and I don't think you can do that all by yourself. But I do also give a lot of training. So if you want to know more about this weird thing called Entra or Azure AD or something in between, then I can also help with that.
Nice. Awesome. And you are speaking at all kinds of conferences, giving training at all kinds of conferences, mostly around Europe. Is that correct?
Yes, mostly Europe currently.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You bet.
And have a great rest of the show. I'm going to try to
Yeah, feel free to stick around if you want. Whatever.
You can stick around as long as you want because there's literally nothing else that's happened in the world of computer security over the past 4 days.
I think I saw a very long list of topics. So.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the next thing I think to talk about is the Shai-Hulud, the worm, the NPM worm that hit but thousands of NPM repos. I mean, John, do you want to give a quick nostalgic rant about worms real quick?
I was shocked that they actually I was reading an article and it talked about the Al-Shahud worm, and it reminded me of there was a tool that Jason Fossen wrote. I think it was for Blaster. It might have even been Nachi or something else. But whenever you ran the tool, it would scan your environment looking for systems that were infected. And if you ran it in your environment and there was no wormed systems or compromised computer systems, it would come back and say something like, "Good day, Muad'Dib. Worm sign negative, no sign of Al-Shahud." And that when I saw this come up and they were talking about the worm, I was just basically like, "Holy crap! Is this an article from 2004?" Because it was a little bit nostalgic with the whole wormification. Because we just don't see that type of automation and spreading very much anymore at all. Propagation. Yeah. I mean, I think it kind of peaked with Configure, with all of the different exploit, post-exploitation, privilege escalation modules that existed. And there goes my connection. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah. Thanks for the rant. So basically, to bring everyone up to speed in case you haven't been following, if you live under a rock. First of all, if you live under a rock, you maybe are safe from this, but maybe not. But yeah, basically, this is a worm with the Dune theme. That's why we're talking about Dune and Shai-Hulud and other Dune references. But essentially, a threat actor published a worm that essentially harvests credentials, and by credentials I mostly mean GitHub secrets, GitHub CI configuration secrets, and things like that. Then it uses TruffleHog to harvest those, exfiltrates a bunch of data. And the way it exfiltrates the data is pretty brutal because it just creates a public GitHub repo called Shai-Hulud. So anyone can go and search these up and you can see some GitHub screenshots. Then it also exfiltrates data via GitHub Actions to post basically base64 encoded data publicly. So in all cases, it's not sending data to a private command and control server or a private threat actor controlled server. It's just posting them to GitHub. And then it infects the repos that it can access and then repeats the process. That's the worming part. So,
and this doesn't seem like a nation state level adversary. This truly feels like a single hacker that's doing it for the love. Just the fact that it's posting it out on GitHub. I could just see somebody who was, working for Russia, Israel, or the NSA, and they're like, "Great, good job. So where did you post the data, Bill?" "I posted it up on GitHub." "But you encrypted it, right?" No. You're going to get fired.
Yeah, they just wanted an easy submission to everyone's bug bounty program. Hey, I found your secrets. They're on GitHub because I put them there.
That is one way of doing it. That's called the wrong way of doing it. But
so
no,
this
I mean,
managed
it
to
is
spread.
But yes, it managed to spread. It actually, I know that they brought the GitHub repository down. How many did it get up to before it was finally nuked?
I think it was in the hundreds. Like, I mean, it's definitely an actively developing user, hundreds or thousands of, and specifically NPM packages. I think the news article that made the hot headlines more than anything was that it infected some of CrowdStrike's NPM libraries that they published, which I'm not entirely sure what the point of these are. Like, who is?
They kept saying that they weren't using it in any customer environments directly or something.
Yeah.
I heard them mention that it wasn't involved with Falcon specifically. So like it must be in something else, but they didn't really want to say what.
I mean, I'm not an NPM developer, so I don't really, none of these packages really jump out at me. But obviously the concept here is that NPM is used widely. There was famous supply chain attacks that have affected NPM for years. It's a common target because the supply chain with NPM is particularly messy. Like, developers are using NPM packages, like third-party NPM packages, for very basic functions like align text left or something like that. Like, there's thousands of external dependencies in NPM, and so it's kind of an easy target for this sort of thing. I will say, like, I don't know if it's just me, but
Static Tear said, all I know about NPM is when I install it, it's like 500 gigs of downloads to run Hello World.
That is totally accurate. So, I mean, I guess my question here, and I'm not like I wish we had Andrew or some like expert on, how cloud stuff and supply chains work. But my question is it normal in an NPM like supply chain to just auto use the latest version of whatever NPM package you're running? Like, is that a normal thing to just auto pull the latest version? It's tricky because on one hand, for security updates, you would want to do that. But on the other hand, for compatibility, I feel like you're kind of a little bit crazy if you just automatically use the latest version of whatever NPM package you're pulling. I don't know if it's just me, but does anyone have a take on that?
So I'm not an expert on this.
Hold on. I just want to point out before it drops off. Wade just posted a GitHub repository for a tool to help see if you've been hit. So that's in our Discord server. We'll get it posted up here, hopefully. There it is, right there. Just showed up. And they called it Chris Knife, which I think is a great name for it as well. Stone.
I love the Dune theme.
Good too. But at any rate, go ahead.
So what I was seeing was people talking about this and saying, when you set up your NPM, there's a preference you can go in and set how long you delay between a new package being released, a new version being released, and when it actually gets incorporated into anything else. And they were like, you should set this for at least 24 hours because that way you won't even get garbage that comes out and immediately gets fixed. And you should probably set it for 48 hours so that you have a chance to actually look at it.
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, you would have it all version locked to the versions you trust, but then you'd have to potentially increment versions manually for like 1,000 NPM packages, depending on how your code looks. So I kind of get it both ways. But
that's kind of the question I've been getting from a lot of CISO type people is, how do we make sure that we don't get hit? And one of the big concerns that I have is like this whole NPM conversation is now bleeding into like automatic patching. Right. And we've talked about this from browsers for the past few years and how automatic patching is just now built in. And there are some organizations that are having straight up real conversations about, we just need to disable automatic patching and not push anything unless we know it's 100% safe. And that scares the hell out of me because that's literally going back to where we were in like 2001, 2002, 2003 timeframe. Where people are like, well, we're going to wait on the patches and maybe we'll roll them out once a quarter when they're trustworthy. And it seems like anytime like this, something like this happens, like this thing that happened with NPM and CrowdStrike and the automatic update that got pushed via CrowdStrike last year, it's two big things from CrowdStrike. It restarts that conversation again where people are like, how are we going to handle the supply chain and the patches that are coming off of it? And I hate how the conversation starts leading down a dark path of we need to validate everything before we put it into production because
okay, so I agree with the perspective, but it's kind of a different scenario. Like, I mean, there's, let's say, two scenarios. One is a centralized patch screws everything up, like the CrowdStrike incident from 2024, right? I think that's one where you can easily just argue like these are limited enough in scope and occurrence that you should just ignore that and keep patching, right? Like, although I guess the Microsoft admins are probably like seeing, smoke in the distance of like the last time they applied a patch and it broke something. But in general, I think we've moved a little bit past that mindset of like patches break stuff. And that's all down to the trustworthiness of the people publishing the patches, right? If it's centralized.
I agree with that. But once again, the conversations that start up and trying to like split that difference becomes very difficult with people that don't understand. And then it also,
and this is different,
supply chain management or SBOM, Security Bill of Materials. How do we know that the products that make up the products that we use are secure is a valid question, but it's one of those things that once you start looking into it, it'll drive you absolutely insane because, literally everything is made of everything else on the internet. Everything is made of all these different packages, and how do you tie that all together is a good question without any good answer. But there's a lot of snake oil vendors out there that like to sell you a product on that.
Well, of course, okay, so
say they're not.
I mean, I'd like to highlight James Randolph's comment in Discord where he says, "I'm glad we got this out of the way, and NPM will be safe from now on. This could never happen again."
Problem solved.
Right? Like, so that's a joke.
So this is the second big NPM thing that's happened in the last month.
2 weeks?
I think
3 weeks.
3 weeks, right? I think this is gonna start being a regular site. So whatever IR process you did for this one, you better write it down and get ready to do it again.
Yeah.
It's
decentralized, right? That's
it was decentralized.
If one developer gets phished, it's all like the whole supply chain's at risk, right? That's basically the long story short.
Especially with this one because it was a worm and it was propagating, right? Like, honestly, to detect this was pretty trivial just because it dropped a JSON script right off the bat, right? Boom, you got a hash, you can detect it. The thing was, though, is it was spreading to so many libraries so quickly that we had to constantly keep checking if we had those libraries.
Right.
I think the last time
just monitor.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, you would monitor for those libraries just to make sure. But the thing is, you have to look for those libraries in both dev endpoints as well as in production to make sure, like you said, no one has any of those libraries that are updating. So things to put in place are don't have libraries that don't update daily or update once every 24 hours, or at least know your schedule so you can actually protect against it, right? This in particular, what I thought was kind of interesting is because like they do exfil via a public GitHub repo, you're not going to have logs for that. All these GitHubs, if your company has, say, a GitHub account, but it's like the community version instead of like an enterprise version, they have access to make a public repo with their GitHub account, and you won't have logs for that at all. So you have to use something.
Account.
Yeah. Some type of network traffic analysis at that point.
If you're lucky, right? Yeah. Or you have to use something like this ChrisKnife tool to go look at every single one of your GitHub accounts to see if they've posted a Shai Hulud repo.
Yes. That's the other thing is like, depending on how your hygiene works, and we definitely have, we do lots of GitHub scanning for our pen test customers. Like, different companies use different policies. Some people just use people's personal GitHub accounts that are added to organizations, right? Which is like harder to detect because then what do? Keep a list of all your developers' usernames on hand?
Well, you can. You have that list. So if they have access to your actual organization, you have a list of every single user, and you can pull it out in a CSV and then pretty much what I did, right? And check every single one versus that using that ChrisKnife.
Yep.
So hopefully you don't have several GitHub accounts or several organizations that you have to check. One interesting part I saw was that no one mentioned building detections for Trufflehog anywhere in any of these blog posts. Like if you look for IOCs,
it does more good than harm, in my opinion, right?
Yeah, I think that's the low hanging fruit. That's one of the low hanging fruits that's you're going to see again because it's a tool that's used pretty regularly. But it was just something like the one outbound connection you would see was an outbound connection to Trufflehog's GitHub, and that would have been a clear indicator of compromise.
Yeah. And also fun fact for those if you're doing threat hunting on this, you can pull from the GitHub API what users have committed from what emails. And so you can pull like a list of GitHub users associated with your organization, even if you don't centrally use a GitHub organization. Because a lot of companies probably don't. They just use private GitHub repos, and people, they just publish to them individually, and it's not centrally tracked or managed. But you can see what commits were made from a corporate email. So that's kind of a threat hunting tip, I guess.
Can you tell that I worked this incident last week or not?
Yeah, right. I mean, it's good tips for sure.
The other thing I'd say, as far as those going, let's hold off on everything, is like there's a real critical difference between a supply chain problem because we use Chrome and Chrome has a bug. Everybody pushed the new Chrome, and our upstream source that happens to be free code has some new things, and we're getting the equivalent of dev pushing everything to prod immediately. Like, there's a reason not to run on nightly builds for absolutely everything. There's a reason not to instantly load all of the stuff the second someone published it. And that's different because they're different kinds of software. Like, it's a different layer of the process. Am I dealing with code? Am I dealing with some binaries?
Yeah, but move fast, break, right? Move fast, fail often. Does that I'm just saying that's a dev term. That's a
I know it is.
Not my term.
Enough times.
That's one of the things I love about it is if people have that type of attitude these days, it's great because the hackers are going to show us the error of our ways, right? We can argue about it one way or the other. If people absolutely, there are companies out there that are move fast, break things, cutting edge, be there, and they're going to get burnt. They're going to get cut. That's just going to happen. And you just kind of got to let that happen naturally. Somebody asked, how would ACH deal with this worm? Will we be able to detect the outgoing connections to GitHub? And we'd be able to look up, see the DNS lookups as well. So that's probably how we would actually do it. And then I didn't know what the beacon interval once it dropped the worm on the system was. But I'm guessing
there's no beacon.
There's no beacon. It's a little bit weird. So it uses GitHub API, creates that repo, and then uses actually what's like the GitHub automated actions built in GitHub Actions. That's literally what it's called. It uses that. So.
And it's also weird because it's not like persistent C2. It's like it does what it's supposed to do and then it moves on. Right?
Correct. AC Hunter is not going to do anything for you on this. I mean, you're going to have to threat hunt your GitHub organization. Like you can't have an alert that says a user.
AC Hunter absolutely could help you identify who's using GitHub in your organization.
Yes, that's true, but they can't differentiate between malicious activity. And it's not just AC Hunter. No network threat hunting tool is going to be able to differentiate between malicious activity on GitHub or legitimate activity on GitHub. And if your organization uses GitHub, there's going to be an incredible amount of volume when it comes to that.
Well, even just posting to like a private versus a public repo, you're not going to be able to find that with network hunting. I mean, I feel like it's a valid concern that a dev just accidentally pushes something to a public repo instead of private as well. I mean,
yes.
That's one of those uses of trouble hog all the time.
That gets into the quote unquote false positiveness of it, right? So if you try to write a detect that's at that level, you're going to be smoked every time someone does something in GitHub, and then you're going to be chasing your tail.
Correct.
Which brings up another thing. I haven't had anybody say this yet, but you just know that there's organizations like, we're just going to ban everybody from going to GitHub. That seems like a bad place.
Well, you really should if you don't use GitHub. I mean, if you don't use GitHub, don't allow people to go to GitHub. Like,
Corey, I think that's easy to say for some smaller organizations, but once you start getting above 1,500 people, you're gonna have somebody that's using GitHub fairly regularly, right?
I could see it done with using the URL, right? And because the organization will be in the URL, and if you say can use GitHub only using this and then star after the organization, that up in your
web application firewall.
It could work. You could build some detections based on that as well, but it's still at the end of the day, like. Hopefully, like you said, it's going to cause a bunch of false positives. Maybe just move to GitLab. Who knows? Easy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that many orgs that. I don't think there's a lot of orgs that are using GitHub for like large software development. setups. Like, I mean, I think it's more like for the medium and small companies. Like if you're a company that is, heavily dependent on your own code, you probably have internal repos, right? Like it's more like if you're a company publishing packages or publishing things for people to use intentionally, like, AC Hunter Community Edition as a great example. Like if you're intentionally publishing code to GitHub, then you're going to have to use GitHub. But not everyone's doing that, right? So depends on the use case. I guess my other question, like to John or others, Wade, are we at the point where you have to have something constantly scanning your like environment for like supply chain attack? Like, is this a core service in security now, or is it still something you can DIY? Like, is the problem too big to address without like a complex product?
Wade, do you want to go first on this one?
I don't think you can DIY this, right? The first thing I thought to protect yourself, of course, is going to be like Artifactory, right? Or something that's scanning. Like I know there's a couple tools out there that will scan any package, make sure it's malicious before it gets back to your dev, which also could take some time, right?
No, you mean make sure it's not. Shit, I got excited there for a second. Wait,
there's one particular tool that's actually a community member that I don't want to like sound like I'm shrilling for them, but the funny part is I had a phone call with them literally the Monday of this attack about their tool, and then that Tuesday they sent me that night they sent me a blog post. They're like, "Oh, it looks like you're going to be working IR," and I'm like, "Great!" Like that was true. The other way, I would just. What was it called? God, it's called OS Osprey, but it's spelt differently. Now I'm gonna have to go to LinkedIn.
There's a ton of tools in this category. I mean, yeah, like Aikido, Aikido, however you say this, is one of the blog people. Lots of people blogged about it. Every company that has any security offering, but I mean, I don't know. I kind of agree with you, Wade. I guess, John, what's your thought? Do you think this is small enough that you can address this?
Traditionally, I think that these products are really, really good at chasing things that have already happened, right? I just think that it's a very complicated thing, right? Once again, I think of that XKCD comic about the internet and how all the technology that we're using today is stacked on all of this previous technology, and it shows a little bit of code that is essential, and it's maintained by one lonely person in their basement in Nebraska or something like that. And I think that pretty much sums up the internet, right? Whenever we're talking about like the XZ packages, like the hell, how many of these products would have been able to detect that? That's the XKCD
one
in Discord right there. We've got it. It's right there.
I was going to say that's definitely a modified version.
That's new.
That's new.
That's a modified version.
But I think that a lot of these, I think that we're moving in the right direction. I think that these products will mature a lot more. And once again, I'm sure I'm going to have the vendor reach out to me and like, we're going to show you a demo that'll change your mind forever, which almost never happens. But once again, I think that these products are really good at detecting yesterday's attacks, and that's better than nothing, right? And over time, it starts to get good, right? But when we're looking at a lot of these different like attacks that have come out over the past few years, I don't know. It's rare to come across a product that's like, yep, that would have totally detected that particular supply chain attack that came out. And once again, I look at the one that's the XY vulnerability, where they dropped it into the encryption libraries, and they spent years building up and contributing to that project, getting trusted by that project, got code commit rights, and then they put their code in, and it wasn't like overtly malicious. It's just, how in the hell do you detect that?
Well, I think so. Basically, I have two opinions on this. One being that you can never replace the traditional security model of understanding your environment and locking it down to the best of your abilities. Like nothing ever replaces that. Like as an example, asking your developers the questions like, how often do our packages pull from NPM? How often do we commit new code? Is it nightly? Is it daily? Is it weekly? Like just understanding on some level how your software development lifecycle works is still a requirement, no matter how many tools you have.
And that's the thing, once again, shilling, that's the thing where I think AC Hunter can like do that. And anything that's running Zeek, by the way. If you're running Zeek or you're pulling logs and telemetry off the edge of your environment, going into those logs and doing a look at seeing, what do we have for NPM packages, who's using it, how is it being used, how many people are using GitHub, not necessarily from the perspective of saying we got to shut this shit down, but just going into the awareness aspect of it. Just so you have an idea of how big the problem is or isn't in your organization. And I think that a lot of organizations from a threat hunting perspective, they're so far away from that place that there's a lot of knee-jerk reactions that become problematic, where the best thing you can do is go on a fact-finding mission to start.
I will say the community has been really good about responding to these both times, right? Or like the past 3 times we've seen. Besides the XY one, I haven't, like, has there been one like an infection like this that has stayed for a while, right? Has there?
Hasn't stayed, but a long time ago there was Linux bit of Linux code that was pushed where if you set up the kernel options wclone and wall together, it automatically elevated your privileges to root. And initially they thought that was a mistake because it was permissions became equal root instead of equal root. So instead of a check, it was an assignment. And I think that one damn near made it into the Linux kernel. That was a really close one. There was also TCP dump a long time ago. Had a vulnerability that was a backdoor that was pushed into it for a short period of time as well. So we've seen similar things like this over time. The only other thing I would say, I was going to say some of the quote unquote backdoors that we've seen in various devices or hard coded passwords, but they're not even like that. So generally we don't see a lot of these, but then that gets into the question of what are we not seeing? Right. Corey?
I would argue my take on this is I don't think you need to detect this when it enters the supply chain. I think that's way too I don't think that's really feasible. I think you just need tools. Right? I think you just need tools. Yeah. If I'm a CISO or, even just like a regular security person, I'm not trying to detect this with some fancy tool as it enters the supply chain. I just want to run this incident in 8 hours or less because that's my if code enters XZ upstream and then finally ends up in my system, I just want to be able to clean it quickly and identify what's infected, because I think that's really the only thing you can expect. Like, you can't audit every line of code that runs in an enterprise environment, but being able to figure out, okay, what has this version of XZ installed, what operating systems are running it, where is it in my environment, and then go and clean it out is the only thing that's going to keep you safe from these kinds of attacks. In this case, I don't think the impact is actually that big from this. A bunch of code was published, a bunch of secrets will have to be rolled. A lot of work, people like Wade's time will be wasted and spent, but I don't think it's going to lead to like another CrowdStrike type incident or something because someone found it and then worked their way back, right?
So I disagree with that last point. I think the biggest thing about this isn't necessarily the technical attributes of it. Even though Wade has been living in the technical attributes of it. I think it was embarrassing, right, for a lot of organizations. And the fact that this particular attack was automated is equally embarrassing. And I think that's interesting to me for a number of reasons, because either A, this is just going to be a one-off or like hearkening back to the past. And it's like, ooh, worms, blast from the past. Or attackers look at this, not necessarily this exact attack methodology for NPM, but looking at it from the context of what were the steps that the attacker had automated. I think that's the scary thing, is that this type of automation can still happen in 2025 in a way that we really haven't seen very much in the way of automation for a very, very, very long time.
Well, it's a feature. That's what CI/CD does. It automates actions.
Agreed, right?
Yeah. I mean, maybe there's some kind of containerization, or like there is some secrets hygiene stuff that could save you here, right? Like Truffle Hog is going to scan the local system and find stuff. If the local system is like a super clean Docker image with no secrets exposed, it's just going to exit, right? It's not going to find anything vulnerable. So, I mean, there is a hygiene element to it. Keep your stuff in environment variables or use password encryption, or, like there's things you can do to limit your impact from this, but also monitoring is always a discussion, right? Like there's an argument to be made that you should be monitoring anytime a new GitHub repo is created on an enterprise account and have like an informational severity alert sent to the SOC to investigate it, or things like that. Like this is just like Wade said, get ready to run this incident again. It's going to happen again, whether it's NPM, apt, Yum, whatever it is, there's going to be a supply chain infection in the future. We saw it was starting with SolarWinds, maybe it was the first big one, and it's just continued every couple months since then. So it's not new.
Well, and the other thing that you talked about is back to the fundamentals, right? Whenever we came up with backdoors and breaches as a game, one of the things that we really tried to focus on is what were the fundamentals. And almost every single incident, if you understand the blue cards, if you look at play.backdoorsandbreaches.com, you can play it online for free. But the blue cards, as far as preparation, is there's firewall log review, network security monitoring. So when we're talking about what you were talking about, Corey, where you're going to be doing some network threat hunting, that is in that game for a reason. And you should be able to look at all of those blue cards, and every single one of them should have documented procedures in your organization. You should be able to know how to do server analysis, endpoint analysis on Windows, endpoint analysis on Linux systems, SymLog analysis. Like all of that stuff should be part of your standard operating procedures for your SOC. Because I agree with you 110%. Doing a full line-by-line analysis of everything in your environment's not going to happen. But being able to react to it appropriately is something that you can do.
Yeah,
making a custom backdoors and breaches deck for your organization would be pretty fun.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Identify get the developers in the room and run this threat as a backdoors and breaches exercise. And you'll realize really quickly, if you start asking questions like, okay, what NPM packages do we even use? Are any of our packages affected? That question might take 2 hours to answer. That's too long. You know what I mean? You got to speed that up.
Exactly. Shameless plug for a free website, play.backdoorsandbreaches.com.
It's a podcast. The whole point of it is plugging.
It is, absolutely.
So
if you're in San Diego, you just need to ask me, and I have free decks.
Yeah. While we're on the topic of supply chain, let's talk about this Steam game infection thing real quick, because this is another example of how, it's kind of more going the InfoStealer home user add-on. Hopefully no one in your enterprise environment is running Steam games on their computer. Fingers crossed. But basically, the scenario here is a game called Block Blasters, which is a 2D platformer, was on Steam for 2 months between July 30th and September 21st. It was fine, it was a safe game until August 30th, and after which a crypto drainer component was added to the game. Basically, this is, unfortunately, a famous streamer named Rivo Plavnix, Rostaland TV. I'm sorry, I don't know that streamer, but basically they were doing a live stream, and all the donations from that live stream were put into a crypto wallet. The crypto wallet was drained, unfortunately, and basically this is like a drainer, right? Supposedly the
OPSEC fail and being able to identify the individual that did this. So that's where I was flowing from, the automated attacks. This just seems like it vibe coding of malware, because you have the batch file that has everything in clear text. So even VX Underground was guys, why does the video game contain a batch file that looks for your browser credentials and crypto wallets, all in plain text? And then it's sending this out.
That's the anti-cheat. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it was it's the anti-cheat. So they send this out with, the Telegrams. They send the stolen data to a Telegram channel that the scammers made. So the OSINT nerds connected to that Telegram channel using the credentials that were made, which not sure if that's OSINT to connect to something with credentials, but still. And then inside the channel, it's a public Telegram channel. It's here are the scammers. Here's their Telegram IDs. Let's cross-check those. We found their Instagram. Their Instagram gives a link tree. Their link tree has everything, including their YouTube account, their PayPal account, their Kick account, their Twitter account, etc. So it's just, it was really this whole, here's how they find these things. And they even had they did see on Virus Total, to where it's one of the scammers that was in the Telegram channel was going to Virus Total and flagging the ransomware files as safe. Like they go like, hey, these things are safe. Like these files are safe. Don't worry about it. Like this is all cool. I'm gonna like vote this file as good. Pay no attention to what the virus can. Virus
I mean, I've said this for years, but like on whatever system you're just gaming on, don't use any accounts or legitimate don't do it. Like don't put your crypto wallets on a Windows system that you're just installing random games on, because as much as I do think Steam has a duty here, this is like telling people not to click fishes. Like, yes, don't install games that have small numbers of reviews or whatever, but and also you could argue, well, Steam, how are you allowing games that just have batch files in them that are clearly like on first pass pretty malicious? But like the reality is this kind of thing is never going to go away. We've seen this in app stores for for 10 years plus. Like people can get malware into app stores. It's possible. So like it's one of those things, like just isolate your gaming system, containerize it, whatever you want to do. I don't know exactly what the safest way to do this is, but don't put anything trusted on a system that you're just running random games on, right?
You've heard it here first. Corey does not support indie games, so don't download any small rated video games.
Well, I do feel that's going to continue to be a problem, as we've seen with info stealers. It's as we said at the beginning of the story, it's not like people are playing Steam games on a work machine, but people are doing work and DevOps on a Steam machine. Like we saw that with LastPass and the Plex server. They're going, we're doing dev stuff on a Plex server because it has power and it doesn't have all those security controls. It lets me do what I need to get done. So I'm going to run everything on that. And hey, it just happens to have Steam, have all these other things that are attack vectors that aren't seen by your IR team.
Yeah. But it's tough. I mean, it's one of those things, like we can't have nice things anymore. We can just say that, like, don't trust your Steam games. This isn't the first time and it won't be the last. And honestly, even if you only play AAA games, like indie games aside, if you only play AAA games, there's an argument to be made. Those are basically backdoors on your computer at this point. Like AAA games require kernel level anti-cheat, UEFI backdoors, and all kinds of garbage. Like it's just gotten to that point, whether it's for it's awful.
That's the big thing is I don't know how you differentiate something with malware and all the games with anti-cheat kernel level rootkits on them.
Yeah,
sorry.
Exactly. Like it's
without
maybe
cheating.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, John, you have an article you want to cover?
Yeah, I want to cover the airport stuff because that's kind of spooky. And also Jaguar is still down. I think I pronounced it
Yeah, we
correct.
talked about that one last week.
Should try it. Jaguar is still down. And there's now conversations about bailouts from the UK government and Jaguar, but also it looks like most of the airports are running a lot better except for Brussels. I think they were still running into problems today, but and then we also had Dallas went down, and a lot of people were wondering, is this completely unrelated, or did Dallas go down because of like something similar? No, they definitely said it's a cyber attack, and this is I don't know. Like, there's not a lot of information coming out on what the details are of the compromise with the company that processes online check-in.
It's called Muse. Has anyone ever heard of this?
Yeah, I've not heard of it. But this also goes into the supply chain thing, right? Supply chain isn't just packages. Supply chain is also entire services from other companies that are supporting you as well. Like, I'm willing to bet for some of these airlines, they're like, who? But it was something that was running something critical for a lot of these airlines, and they've been down. And then time traveling nerd herder, there's a lot of talk is like, is this a test run? Don't know. We have some people saying it wasn't a cyber attack. Most of the news is it is in fact a cyber attack. If it's not a cyber attack, then it's like some form of tech debt, and it definitely impacts availability as well. But I don't know. It's kind of spooky, and I think we're just going to watch this space for a little bit longer and see if we can get a little bit more news on what it is and what it isn't.
So, okay, if you're a passenger on one of these planes, would you rather be grounded because the door is about to fall off or because there was a cyber attack? Like, choose your own adventure.
So
I'm going to choose the door. No, I'm going to choose the door because if the door, look, this is easy. If they ground the plane because the door was about to fall off, the system worked. They found the door problem before we went into the air. If this is a cyber attack that hit it, then at that particular situation, the system is not working. I didn't say the door fell off. They found that the door was going to fall off. That means the system of inspections was doing what it's supposed to do, and it worked.
This is why I only use carry-on. Never
Yeah,
check luggage.
Did they find that the door
It'll
was
go
gonna
right out
fall
the
off
door
because
with you.
several other
There
doors
we
It'll go
fell
out the
off?
door with you, right?
Yes, they did, Andy. That's exactly what happened. Is the door fell off on one flight, and they were like, "Hold on, all the doors might fall off."
Somebody check all these doors quick.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
If you
Which is
remember,
like how
when they checked the doors, there were a bunch of them that were missing multiple screws, which once again.
So what you're saying, John, is the system worked. Thanks, Bowie.
Yeah, I just don't want to be on the point.
Not for that first one.
Not exactly.
Yeah.
Not for that first one. I don't want that.
Look,
All
I don't
right,
think
we
y'all
gotta
understand
wrap it up.
Boeing's system. It's very complicated.
We're to rip up Boeing now. There goes a
Torque-
sponsor.
Torque wrenches are really hard to use. All right, John, plug
Scratch
us.
them.
Let's get out of here.
All right,
We are a
everybody.
company. We do things. One of those things is training. Check out our
Woo.
course on digital forensics and incident response. Wait,
And
what?
we do that as a service too.
Oh, it turns out that's not what we're talking about. We do that as a service at Black Hills Information Security. Digital
I like the logo.
forensics and incident response.
That's a good. We suck at
Oh,
this.
look, you guys got
We also
multiple
have
things?
an-
What?
No one
we
wants
have an active sock.
Right? You want the anti-sock, right? Is that
Yeah.
That's
We also do pen testing. We do things and stuff. Also, for the record, hold on. I'm counting the first article we talked about before we even started the show as a chicken article.
Was there a chicken in that?
What?
The fridge? Chicken goes in the fridge.
Sure. Sure.
I'm
Why
just
not?
saying, I'm counting it. If I get an ad on my fridge, it better be for chicken. That's all I'm saying. It better be like, yes, it better be like.
I tell you what,
chicken.
as soon as I get an ad on my fridge for chicken, I will record it and send it to y'all. So
Can we do a malvertising campaign, but it just says watch the Black Hills InfoSec podcast? You're out of chicken.
We can try. I actually might be able to do that. And then
It just says we see you like chicken nuggets. You should join the Black.
Somehow infect something at CrowdStrike, and it's going to show up at airports all over
The
the world.
CEO of CrowdStrike is angrily tweeting, "Why does it tell me to watch this when I run out of chicken
BHIS trying to
nuggets?"
sell people chicken? Who are these people?
I would never hire BHIS because
What
they
does chicken
actually
mean? Is it some kind of
they
furry
actually
thing?
invaded my privacy by saying I purchased eggs and chicken products.
Dare they say I support poultry? All right, thank
All right,
you, everybody.
I'm going to get
Bring
on
up the
Samsung.
finger.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone, for coming.
There you go.